We might not need one, but hey, it's a free country, right? So if they want to do it, hey, let them go ahead and do it. I mean, seriously, guys, have you seen their flag? Welcome to the Cynical Centrist Podcast for June 8th, 2019. I am the Cynical Centrist. Got a great show for you today, but before we do, I really want to go back to Sunday. There was a lot of day of prayers for the shootings over at Virginia Beach. So naturally, Franklin Graham, an evangelical, the son of Reverend Billy Graham, asked for a national day of prayer, mostly to protect President Trump. And wow, I don't remember him ever doing a national day of prayer for other presidents. Maybe Bush, I'm not sure. Definitely I don't remember any for Obama. And this is what I wanted to talk about at the top of the program. This is the biggest issue that I have with Trump and his supporters. Now look, I'm willing to admit that Trump hasn't had, at least in my opinion, the worst presidency of all time. Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be pretty angry at that, but honestly, it's not the worst. It's definitely in the bottom half, probably even bottom 10 of all time, but not the worst. There have been some good and some bad, more bad than good overall. But like I said, it hasn't been a complete bust. I am also willing to admit that the mainstream media gets pretty obsessive over Trump. Like, they really cannot get enough of pointing at his mistakes, talking about his scandals endlessly, and they would ignore things that many years ago they couldn't wait to point out for Obama, like how strong the economy's gotten, well, at least according to the Dow Jones anyway. Like, it's almost like the economy doesn't even exist to the mainstream media, which is interesting. Like, they would say that the economy is growing in spite of Trump instead of, because of Trump's policies. And at least for the short term, right now, he's been doing pretty good for the economy. That's how I think the independent American person is seeing this. Now, the biggest issue that I have with Trump and his supporters is this belief that he's some kind of holy man, like this deification, if you will, like he's the de facto leader of the Christian church, simply because he's the highest-ranking Republican candidate. And by the way, it's always a Republican that these pastors tell you that you all need to pray for. No, it's never Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. No, of course not. They're Democrats. No, it doesn't matter what Trump's past is like, right? It doesn't matter what he's done. And it doesn't even matter what he's done now or during the election. Of course not. All that matters is if all these other pastors are seeing this guy as a holy Christian man, even though, he doesn't seem like he even knows how to pray, well, he must be, right? And then to those that argue, well, Donald Trump isn't perfect. No man is. You know what? You're absolutely correct. I totally agree. Now, how about you extend that same courtesy to Hillary Clinton, or to Barack Obama, or to Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders? And that's usually where I hear them say nothing, at least on Twitter, where they'll try to argue like, oh, God is with Trump or something like that. They don't want to extend that same courtesy to the others simply because they have a D next to their name, or because a pastor tells them to. Being a right-wing Republican is kind of almost like a requirement, it seems, to be a real Christian. I should put that in quotes. Real Christian with a trademark on it. And it's been this way since the days of W. Bush. This is why I believe, Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg? I can't pronounce that. I apologize. Buttigieg. Who is running as a Democrat who is deeply religious, is not going to make much traction, at least to me in the primary. I mean, when you think of a Christian, do you really think of a gay married man? I don't think that you do, and a lot of people think that he's establishment on top of it, and that's not going to help him out either. I mean, I respect everything that he's doing. Let's be real, though. It's been stapled in everyone's heads over and over. How homosexuality is an abomination to God, and how those pride parades are seen as an affront to God, etc., etc. And it's funny, too. You know, in the 80s and 90s, they targeted the Dungeons and Dragons nerds. In the 90s, it was the Pokemon players, the video gamers, due to Columbine. Now it's the LGBT community. Christianity and politics has never, ever been about love and tolerance. It's always been about, you better do what we say and follow our rules or you're going to hell. But us, no, we don't have to follow those rules. We're the good guys. Hell, just on Tuesday, Kenneth Copeland was talking about how, you shouldn't be flying commercial airlines. It's of the devil or something. I can't really get the quote out of him, and I'm not ready to look up on the news right now at this point, what his quote was. But basically, he said that commercial airlines are of the devil, but, private jets, that's fine. That's perfectly fine by God. It's a biblical thing. I remember that part of his quote. But these double standards, they bother the hell out of me. And nothing bothers me more than double standards. And if you are a moderate or a centrist, then really, double standards should probably be like your number one pet peeve, or at least in the top 3. I mean, think about it. These guys all talk about pray for Trump. He's flawless no matter what others say, or no matter what the scandals that show up. Oh, don't listen to the media. They all just hate Trump because they hate God and they want to persecute Christians and all this. Hell, most would see the scandals like further proof of their own persecution. But they'll pray and worship this guy like he's the Pope. But say Joe Biden wins the presidency in 2020, or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, will Franklin Graham ask for a national day of prayer for them? My odds point to no. If he by some miracle does, will the same people who pray for Trump ask for the same protection for Biden, Sanders, Warren, or hell, insert your Democrat president here? Some might, but the lion's share of them will probably pray for God to kill them or for their destruction in some kind of impeach-worthy scandal or something. And that, like I said, that's just what irks the hell out of me with this double standard stuff. And yes, I know there are double standards on the left too. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I guarantee you we're going to get to those. But like I said, there's a time and place for everything, and that was just what bugged me pretty much all week, the National Day of Prayer thing. So, all right, so enough of that. Let's get to abortion laws. Basically, I was going to do this last week, and I forgot to do it. So I thought I would have a short segment before we go to a break on abortion laws. Namely, the states that have signed heartbeat bills, and then we have one state in particular that I'm going to single out for its rather draconian and, in my opinion, almost old world style laws on abortion, and that is Alabama. So, like I said, there are 4 different states that passed heartbeat bills, which basically bans abortion if there is a heartbeat. That's about 6 to 8 weeks after conception, which doesn't really give the female, the woman, enough time to make a decision on abortion. Now, with Alabama, they get rid of this altogether, and then they also, now the heartbeat bills do, I believe, add exceptions for rape, incest, and if the mother is harmed, and Alabama's laws do not contain these exceptions. Furthermore, they also sentence the abortion doctor to 99 years in prison for murder if they perform an abortion. As you can see, this was met with a lot of outrage. Now, I will say that none of these bills will be seeing the light of day, at least until the Supreme Court decides to have a say on it, and if they want to strike down Roe versus Wade, because Roe versus Wade is still the law of the land. So even though these bills are passed by the state, I do want to tell my pro-choice supporting listeners that never fear, the law is still the law over there. they still have to adhere to the Roe versus Wade laws, at least for right now. It is only when the Supreme Court makes a decision to overturn Roe versus Wade is when these laws would start coming into effect. Now, whether or not you believe in abortion, pro-choice, pro-life, I do believe that at least one exception, that is the threat to the mother's life, I believe is universally or should be universally agreed on. I also do believe that rape should also be universally agreed on, but I guess that depends on who you talk to. Now, I can kind of understand on the pro-life side their arguments, and I think on a later date, I want to talk about like the pro-life side of abortion, like what they're actually thinking. And it's something that I plan to do someday down the road. Try to understand it from their side. And it's not just going to be liberal to conservative. I'm also going to do a conservative to liberal segment as well. And one of the first things I want to do is abortion. But I'm digressing here. We will talk about abortion another day. Let's talk about Alabama. When Pat Robertson is saying that you are too draconian with your rules on abortion, Pat Robertson, we're talking the 700 Club, evangelical, about as pro-life gets. When Donald Trump is tweeting that your laws are too draconian, the annoying orange, you know you done screwed up. And to me, it's just laws like that kind of weaken the case for pro-lifers. Especially in a state like Alabama that has very low quality in welfare, education, healthcare, and all of the... And I know a lot of people have been telling me, oh, they're last in education, and then you'll hear some others saying, oh no, California is the worst in poverty. But we can all kind of agree Alabama is down there. If you are really for protecting the unborn and protecting them until they are born, then you should be for allowing a better quality of life for these people. But it always seems like that the states that are all for protecting the unborn, to me anyway, don't even care when the baby is born. I'm sure they're thinking to themselves, well, I protected the unborn, so I did God's work. But providing them with good health, proper education, and the best chance for a good quality of life that they can, well, that doesn't seem to be in these states' priorities, especially if the baby that is born is a minority. Having heard horror stories of people who live in the South or had lived in the South at one time, yeah, I feel it. That's not to say that pro-lifers don't have a case. I mean, like I said, I'm going to save that for another time. But the approach and the way they show that they care about the unborn, and I'm going to say this, not all pro-lifers, that's true, but definitely those that are lawmakers, especially here in the state of, the state of Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri, Ohio. They've always been the one that seem to act like they only support their own self-interests and their feel-good, I did something for God kind of feeling, rather than actually caring about the unborn and actually caring about how that child is going to go through life. And I really wish that they would take that more into consideration. That's pretty much where I'm going to stop here, because I do want to save abortion for a segment down the road. I'm actually saving that in my queue for whenever we have a slow news day, that I can put it in as like a topic to really just kind of analyze and discuss. So expect that, I would say, several weeks down the road. I'll see how I'm feeling when we get to that point. All right, so that's going to be it for this segment. We're going to go to a break, and afterwards, we're going to talk about something that I had just found on the news a little while ago, and yeah, the U.S. is one of the top 10 most dangerous countries for women. And I'm going to explain why this is bullshit. I'll be back. Okay, so before we move forward, I want to give a special shout out and special thanks to a couple people who have helped make this possible. A special thanks to Audionautics for the opening song. Audionautics.com has thousands of royalty-free music for you to use for your own podcast, advertisement, or YouTube show. All kinds of genres and moods. That is Audionautics.com. They even have like this little button here. They have 3 radio buttons for like the tempo that you want. So you want fast, medium, slow. They even got that. They got like 40 different genres. And yeah, it's just awesome in so many different moods. So yes, please go check it out, Audionautics.com. Also, from our good friend at Pulsar Radio. Pulsar Radio, spinning new alternative rock, indie rock, punk, metal, hardcore, and more. Wednesdays, 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Tune in at radiovegas.rocks. You can also follow him at Pulsar Smash and check out his advertisement on Twitter, scan the barcode, and download the radiovegas.rocks app for free. And also, I have finally fixed my social media account on Twitter. You can follow me at Cynic Centrist. Apparently, Cynical Centrist was already taken, so at Cynic Centrist. That is Cynical Centrist without the AL, Cynic Centrist. Now, you know, one of the big complaints I had last show was that when I decided to talk about the stupid things that people on the left do, the only story I could come up with was a plastic straw ban in Oregon, and I was told that I was a little soft on them. Well, I'm sorry, but it's not my job to go 50-50 when one side has a giant annoying orange who wants to use tariffs as a political weapon and harm foreign relations with other countries, make the prices of all our goods go up. Yeah, you're going to hear me talk about that side a little bit more. If one side has an evangelical pastor that want to sell coins with Trump's face on it and claim that it is used as a channel to talk to God, you're going to hear me talk about that side a little bit more. And when one side has 500 experts putting out a study indicating that the United States is somehow in the top 10 most dangerous countries in the world for women, well, I think you guys know where I am heading. Yep, we're going to talk about it. So for those of you that wanted more liberal bashing this episode, well, you're getting it today. This story comes out of Newsweek. The U.S. in the top 10 most dangerous countries for women, report finds. The U.S. has been ranked in the top 10 most dangerous countries for women, making it the only Western nation to be named among the world's worst guarantors of female rights and safety. The Thomson Reuters Foundation, wow, Reuters, surveyed 500 experts to determine where women were most at risk. Countries were ranked in 6 key areas: healthcare, sexual violence, non-sexual violence, cultural practices, discrimination, and human trafficking. 9 of the top 10 nations were in Asia, the Middle East, or Africa. The only Western nation included was the United States, which the foundation said was directly related to the Me Too movement that rocked American society in the wake of rape and sexual harassment allegations against high-profile figures in 2017. Now, the reason why I'm calling this 100% absolute, complete horse crap is not because I don't think that women aren't in danger in the United States, or women are not sexually assaulted and raped, or that women are treated perfectly here and there are no problems. Obviously, if you compare us with many European countries, we do have plenty of problems. But are you trying to tell me that 500 experts on this subject can't find more than 9 countries worse than us? Are you serious? There was a documentary that I had just watched on North Korea a few days ago, where they talked about women being sexually assaulted and raped while they were forced to serve in the military over there, and they would be punished for speaking out. And North Korea is not on this list. But the United States, where we can have demonstrations of tens of thousands of women marching in the streets, creating a movement like the Me Too movement, is. Look, just because we are more vocal about the injustices against women in this country than in places where they can barely speak up at all, doesn't mean we're a more dangerous country to live in than the places that keep these things silent. I had a source voluntarily go through a ton of research on this and got back to me with plenty of information on laws that countries have used to oppress women today. Not 50 years ago, not 10 years ago, today. Let's start with female genital mutilation. How many countries do you think have a higher proportion of females that have undergone female genital mutilation of any kind than the United States? Just off of Wikipedia, and shout out to Wikipedia because I got a lot of information from this one, at least 35 countries, most of them in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Now, some just don't have laws against it, like the US, and it's just religious practices, so thus the proportions can be a little bit higher in places like Indonesia or Saudi Arabia, and so on. Now, how about a list of countries where it is far more difficult for a woman to vote than a man? Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uganda, Kenya, Oman, Qatar, I'm sorry for butchering that country name, Egypt, Nigeria, Papua New Guinea, Zanzibar, and in the Vatican City, it's impossible. Matter of fact, in the Vatican City, women can't hold any positions of power at all. Outside of a few, I don't see any of these countries in the top 10 list. Marry your rapist laws. These are always fun. We grapple with politicians over whether or not rapists should even have shared parental rights with their victim, which, by the way, they absolutely should not. And if you are in a state that is in one, I suggest you run. These countries take it a step further and exonerate the male of prosecution whatsoever for rape, sexual assault, statutory rape, abduction, or similar acts if the offender marries his female victim. Algeria, Angola, Bahrain, Bolivia, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, the Philippines, Russia, Serbia, Syria, Tajikistan, Thailand, Tonga, and selected states, I think there are 3 of them, in Mexico. Again, in the United States, we do not have marry your rapist laws. I believe the closest one that we have is something for statutory rape in Missouri, and that's literally one state. Florida used to have one as well, and they had shot that down a while ago. Spousal abuse. The 20 worst countries for spousal abuse. And I'm not going to go through all 20. I'll do the top 10 and then a few other notas. Number 1, and this is the percent of women reporting being physically abused by spouses or partners in the last 12 months. Number 1, Democratic Republic of the Congo with 36.8%. Number 2, Uganda, 33.3%. Number 3, Gabon, 31.5%. Number 4, Cameroon, 31.4%. Number 5, Sierra Leone, 28.7%. Number 6, Mozambique, 27.7%. Number 7, Zimbabwe, 27.2%. Number 8, Mali, 26.9%. Number 9, Zambia, 26.7%. Number 10, Ivory Coast, 22%. Most of these are African or Middle Eastern countries, except for the Dominican Republic at number 13 with 16%. Number 19, Peru, 12.9%. And number 20, rounding up the top 20, Togo with 12.7%. And this is just reported. This is not counting the cases that don't go reported in these countries. The United States, not on this list. And I haven't even gotten to sexual assault and rape cases that are ignored in other countries, like what I had stated in North Korea at the start of this, or in other places in Eastern Europe. This is not to say we are perfect by any means. If this were a top 50 list, maybe top 75 list, there could possibly be a case made, depending on the metrics. But top 10? Are you telling me that the U.S. as a whole is a more dangerous country for women than any of the countries that I have mentioned in any of these lists here? I mean, hell, spousal abuse. Marry your rapist laws. I mean, it just blows my mind. This is one of these cases. And I have to learn this too. I have to learn this lesson because I'm a man of numbers and statistics, and I almost follow numbers and statistics almost religiously in a way, where it doesn't matter what academic experts say, if it smells like horse crap, it probably is horse crap. If these 500 experts claim that the U.S. is the 10th most dangerous place in the world, I invite them to go and travel to any of the countries that I have mentioned today and tell me and tell all these people that it is a less dangerous place for women to live there than in the United States. And like I said, I'm not disregarding any of the issues of the Me Too movement. But let's work with facts and not with sensationalizing something to a point that people write off what you say. This is why so many don't trust the mainstream media anymore, myself included. It's literally like the boy who cried wolf. I get most of my sources now from as moderate sources as I possibly can because I'm getting sick of hearing super biased sources from the left, from places like Vox and Vice and CNN. And oh, by the way, my source also added this comment, and I wanted to say it on this show. The U.S. supposedly made this list because of the Me Too movement. Pretty sure there's more than 10 countries where such a movement would be illegal. So, let that one marinate. I think that sums it up perfectly. And let this be a lesson to my listeners, especially if you're going out and debating, say, other conservatives or other liberals out there. Use facts to beat your opponent, not sensationalize bullshit. And that's something we can all learn, including me, as a matter of fact, since I am very much a man of numbers and I take things at face value. Don't let statistics run your life. Matter of fact, I do have a video. I'll post it on Twitter sometime that actually talked about it. I got that from a friend in Washington, and I will tell you all about that on Twitter. So that'll be a little bit of an extra for my listeners. So that's pretty much it. We're going to wrap things up when we get back. Going to talk about the straight pride parade and, yeah, the straight pride parade. It's a lot funnier than it sounds. And the Apple MacBook Pro. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the program. Couple more news stories to talk about real quick, and we're going to call it. So there had been news on Twitter talking about a group in Boston wanting to organize for a straight pride parade. And I know there was a lot of arguing about this on Twitter about how the whole purpose of gay pride parades to celebrate Pride Month in June is because it was necessary to raise awareness that they should be allowed to exist. This because in the past it had been illegal to even perform acts, homosexual acts at all, to be able to hold jobs, or to even be allowed to exist. Matter of fact, there are still countries around the world, mostly developing third world countries, where this is still true. So we should be thankful that we don't need a straight pride parade, and I do agree with that. Well, we might not need one, but hey, it's a free country, right? So if they want to do it, hey, let them go ahead and do it. Seriously, guys, have you seen their flag? Seriously, I don't know who came up with the idea for the black and white stripes, but you've got to see this. And I put it up on my Twitter, and I'll put it up again sometime for those of you that want to see it. But I'm not kidding you. They use the black and white stripes in the same orientation of those old school prison uniforms. You know, those prison... If you ever see a very old movie, and you would see these guys in a black and white prison uniform and like a ball and chain and like just cracking rocks with a hammer. Yeah, that's exactly what what this flag looks like. And I'm not kidding you. So there's a like male and a female symbol in the center, and then there's these white and black stripes literally looking like an old school prison uniform. I am not kidding you. It's I don't know. I'm telling you. It looks like I'm either watching a funeral or a bunch of escaped convicts when I imagine a straight pride parade with all these people coming out with these white and black striped shirts. And depending on if they go with an all black and white motif, it could be like, I don't know, the weirdest looking funeral I've ever seen, or, you know, if they decide to do the white and black like the flag, like you see, you know, rainbow colors in gay pride parades, you know, white, black, striped colors. If they ever did that, then, you know, honestly, it would look like a bunch of escaped convicts coming out. I'm sorry. And I would think like some kind of old 19th century play is being played or something. I don't know. But anyway, Tomi Lahren went on blasting Boston for giving straight pride supporters a hard time over getting permits for their parade. And you know what? Like I said, I agree. Let them have it. I'm actually surprised that some people can't see the lunacy in all this. Like I said before, you seen their flag? I mean, this is one of the most pitiful looking flags I've ever seen. And I've seen some pretty bad flags. This is a complete joke. And to me, anyone who's taking this seriously, I don't know what to do with you. LGBT supporters, to me, are absolutely correct here. We don't need a straight pride parade. No one is making it illegal to be heterosexual. And to be honest, no one ever will. But hey, if you want to run a straight pride parade to show off your straight pride, go right on ahead. Guess I could use the entertainment. Sounds like something Monty Python would cook up if you ask me. Hey, I'll tell you what, throw in the Spanish Inquisition, and we could probably make a play out of it somehow. Maybe I should start writing screenplays for this kind of stuff. All right, so moving on to the last segment of the week. The Worldwide Developers Conference happened over the weekend, and Apple was the talk of the conference for all the wrong reasons, namely about their MacBook Pro. Now I get it, this MacBook Pro is not for the commercial consumer. It is mainly for like high-end graphics artists. But the interesting part of the pricing is for their monitor and stand. The monitor clocking in at $4,999, but it is a very top-of-the-line monitor. What a lot of the people are making fun of is for the Apple Pro stand. The stand alone for the monitor is $999. $1,000 for a stand. As my friend said in the previous segment, let that marinate. I could buy 2 budget laptops for the price of that single stand. I could buy a high-end laptop for the price of this stand. So, to celebrate this act of extravagance from Apple, I'm going to do a new segment on this show. So, we're going to do something a little bit more interactive. I am going to have you, my listeners, respond to a question of the day. So shout out hashtag Cynical Centrist with the answer to the question of the day. What would you do with $1,000? And please do not say you would buy the stand for the MacBook Pro. I also accept those memes that show like what you would do with the $1,000, and then something useful on the left side, and then the stand on the right. Choose wisely on the center as well. So those that respond, I plan to shout out next episode. So that's a wrap, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it this week. Just letting you know, I plan to host a couple special editions of this podcast in the month of June, namely one dedicated to who I am voting for president, and another dedicated to the debates themselves. Well, that latter one, I'm still rather new to this podcast thing, so I'll see if I need to do a whole episode on just the debates or not afterward. I do plan to watch the debates, though, and get responses from people regarding it on the 29th. But that special over my choice for president, I plan to do on a Tuesday. It's going to be kind of a test to see if I can handle a second podcast a week. Because I know there are a couple of you that have asked me, hey, you should start doing 2 podcasts a week instead of 1. So it'd be kind of a little bit of a test there. I haven't figured out yet if it'll be on the 18th or 25th. I will let you know next week. So that is a wrap. If you caught this on Podbean, you can come follow me in my social media account on Twitter at Cynic Centrist. If you are on Twitter, catch me on Podbean at Cynical Centrist. And I will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.